If you knew you had only 1 week to live, what would you do? How would you live out those last 7 days of your life? Maybe you would pack your luggage and head off to all those must-see destinations that you wanted to get to in this life, but never quite got there. Or maybe you would tackle those really adventurous activities you always wanted to do, but didn't because you were afraid they would kill you. Well, now it really doesn't matter, does it? Maybe you're more relationally driven and you would want to spend every last minute with your closest family and friends. Well, regardless how you would spend those 7 days, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't flitter them away. You wouldn't just veg out on the couch, binge watching some meaningless TV show. You'd make those last 7 days meaningful. You would make them purposeful. You'd be intentional. Well, Jesus absolutely knew that he had only 1 week to live. Mark tells us in Mark chapter 10 that just days before he entered Jerusalem, that Sunday before he died, that he said to his disciples, "We're going to Jerusalem. I'm going to be handed over to the chief priests and the scribes. They're going to crucify me. I'm going to die." So he knew he only had a week to live. And he was very purposeful and he was very intentional about what he did. Let's take that Sunday, for example, the Sunday that we now call Palm Sunday. It was like any other day of the week prior to Israel's highest and holiest day of celebration, Passover. People, they went out to the gates to welcome the pilgrims who were coming from all over Israel. But the way they received Jesus was a little bit different. Mark tells us that they laid their cloaks on the ground, paving the way for him. Some cut palm branches and they were waving them like victory banners. And they were chanting a psalm, "Hosanna in the highest. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." You see, they believed that Israel's long-expected king had entered the city. And he had. But he didn't come to be the king they thought he came to be. You see, they expected this conquering, heroic king, but that's not who Jesus came to be. He came to be this comforting, compassionate, humble king. Mark tells us that he entered the city on a lowly donkey, not a white steed like a conquering king would, but a simple, lowly donkey. No white horse, no sword around his waist, not being followed by submissive soldiers ready to do his battle. No, just Jesus on a donkey surrounded by 12 humble men. Mark tells us that when the donkey reached the final destination, the foot of the temple, Jesus dismounted. He went in and he just looked around. That was it. He looked around and then he left. Not what was expected of a conquering king. You see, in the first century, a king that conquered a city would go into the temple. And then he would claim the temple as his own, and he would offer a sacrifice to his God, desecrating that temple. But Jesus, he didn't do that. He simply walked in and looked around. Why? Why did he enter that way? Why did he just look around and leave? Because you see, Jesus came to be a humble king, and humility really is the highlight of his character. Paul tells us in the book of Ephesians in chapter 2 that Jesus came into this world and he didn't consider himself more important than others. He put others before himself, and he even humbled himself to the point of death, even death on a cross. Death on a cross for us. Most kings don't think about the lowliest of lowly in their kingdoms, but Jesus did. Jesus thought about the needs of people, and he humbled himself to die on a cross for them, paying the price for their sins. Not what the Jews expected, not even what our world expects today. That's not what a king does. But that's what Jesus did, and that's our king.